What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today we are going to be doing rest of season rankings for all the running backs. So if you're looking for maybe people you want to trade for, people that I think are ranked a little bit higher than they've been performing, look no further. This is the list to look at. But before we get into it, if you guys could, please go down and give this video a like, comment. I am answering every single fantasy football related question. So any questions you guys have, I am more than happy to help you guys out. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on so you do not miss another video, and you can dominate your league mates. But with that out of the way, let's hop right into our S tier running backs. So these S tier running backs, I think no surprise here. There's three guys that are simply above the rest in terms of the running back position. If you have any of these three guys, they are gold mines. You are going to be a happy camper. It's Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Jonathan Taylor. Saquon Barkley is averaging 142 yards from scrimmage. It basically looks like another MVP year. He's at 570 yards. Well, the Giants' offense does not look that good. Saquon just looks to be the exception. He looks absolutely incredible out there. This is not biased, just I'm a Giants fan. I really do think Saquon is the number one running back right now in fantasy football. Then number two, we got Christian McCaffrey, and I think Christian McCaffrey is easily number two, could have a case for number one. The reason why is because of his massive target volume. I mean, just look at 5 targets, 4 targets, 9 targets in the past 4 weeks. Also 21, 12, 14, 14 fantasy points in total. So I mean, he's an absolutely stable piece, and has the ceiling to go for 30. He hasn't really looked all that great so far. But I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey. He's gonna look insane. He's gonna get back, and he's gonna win you your league pretty much if you have him. And then Jonathan Taylor. The reason why he's third now is because he's dealing with a little high ankle sprain. I don't know what the Colts are talking about, saying he's day to day. I don't know why all these teams are saying high ankle sprains are day to day. I don't believe that's true. But Jonathan Taylor, when he's on your roster, is going to absolutely win you weeks with 30-point performances, 40-point performances. Well, yes, he is going through an injury. I still think he deserves to be in this top 3, even if he's going to miss a week or 2. But now let's move on to our next tier running backs. These guys are still running back ones, and you're going to be happy if you have them on your roster. So the first guys are Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, and Derrick Henry. It does feel a little weird having these 3 guys at my top because these are all primarily rushing running backs. But kicking off with Nick Chubb has looked almost as good as Saquon Barkley, but without the receiving work. That's why I think I should have him high up on my A tier. First of all, he does have one of the best O-lines in the entire league. But second of all, I mean, 22 attempts, 17, 23, and 19, going for 141, 87, 113, and 118 yards. This guy's pretty much a lock for 100 yards a game. Does get slightly utilized in the receiving game. I mean, averaging about 2 targets a game. Nothing crazy here. But the fantasy performances he's been putting up have been absolutely insane. 15 points, 31 points, 18 points, and 20 points. Wow, I mean, that's beautiful. That's winning you weeks right there, and you're certainly not losing any weeks from those performances. Well, I think he will cool off a tiny bit. Again, he is running behind the best O-line, and they need to run the ball a ton with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Next, we got Joe Mixon, another guy who's primarily a rushing back, but he's been getting utilized a lot heavier in the receiving game. 4 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, 9 targets. That is exactly 6 targets a game, and if you're getting that from the running back position, you are very happy, especially considering the attempts he's getting. 27 rushes, 19, 12, and 24. He's getting about 20 rushes a game. Well, yes, he's been very inefficient. If you're getting that workload, you have to be good in fantasy. There's no way around it. This O-line has to get better. It can't get any worse than it is right now. And even if it operates at the same level, I would expect around 15 or 16 fantasy points a game for Joe Mixon. He should be getting in the end zone a lot. Yes, it is a little bit painful. I just recommend don't watch the games. Just enjoy the fantasy love. Next, we got Derrick Henry, the abominable snowman. And this is another player, like Nick Chubb, is going to be getting 20 attempts a game, rushing, and can break off 50-yard touchdown runs. He is getting a little bit more utilized in the receiving game. Over the past 2 weeks, he's had 11 targets. Well, I don't think this is going to stay. If we see 2 or 3 targets a game for Derrick Henry, that's fine. And Derrick Henry, a proven, known commodity in fantasy. Yes, there may be some dud weeks. He may be dropping 8 points in some weeks, but there's also other weeks where he's going to be dropping 20, 30 fantasy points, and he'll win you your week single-handedly. Definitely a serviceable RB1 here. Next, we got Austin Ekeler, another guy who's a very serviceable RB1. I was considering having him even lower at this point, but I think Austin Ekeler's earned it with his overall history as a fantasy running back. He's averaging almost 7.5 targets a game, and that's Austin Ekeler's specialty. It always has been. We haven't really seen that go away. Well, yes, he is not being utilized as heavily as you would like to see in the rushing game. I think the receiving game makes up for it. While he's not the high-end RB1 that we envisioned at the start of the season, I think he still is definitely an RB1, a very solid guy. And if you can go out and trade low for him, I would definitely do that. Now I think with this 32-point week, it might be a little tougher, but there might be some Austin Ekeler managers who are concerned, so I think it's possible you could go trade low for him. Next, we got Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Swift. Dalvin Cook's averaging 20 attempts a game, as always. I mean, it's Dalvin Cook. You can't really expect anything less than that, but he hasn't really been getting it done on the ground nearly as much, only having one touchdown to start the season. So, well, yes, I think Dalvin is one of those lower running backs. I think he still deserves to be in the A tier as one of those lower tier RB1s, and if you have him in your squad, you should be absolutely fine. And then last, we got DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has looked really good. I was considering about moving him down to my B tier, but I think he deserves to be in A tier just because of how good he's looked. Well, we do have Jamal Williams sapping touchdown volume from him. I think DeAndre Swift should be absolutely fine, and the talent will win out. But that's it for the A tier. Now let's move on to our B tier. For this B tier of running backs, I mean, I consider most of these guys to be either very low-end RB1s or high-end middle-of-the-pack RB2s, so they could still operate well in your offense. If these are your RB1s, you're not going to be mad, but you're not going to be happy necessarily. You'd probably want to upgrade and get somebody better. But if these are your RB2s, you're going to be happy, you're going to be ecstatic. We've got Alvin Kamara, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, James Conner, and then A.J. Dillon to round out the tier. First, let's start with Alvin Kamara at the top of the B tier. I mean, this is still RB1 territory. I just am a little concerned because he has been dealing with injuries and hasn't really looked that good to start the season. I think things will pick up for him. It's Alvin Kamara. His court date got moved back to November. I just am being cautious with a ranking like this. I still think Alvin Kamara is a phenomenal running back. Then we got Leonard Fournette. And while I'm a little concerned with his usage Sunday night against the Chiefs, I think overall this is still a running back who's going to be dominating the snap share in this offense. He only had 61%, but they were down most of the game. I think the Buccaneers should not be in very negative game scripts for a lot of the season. I mean, it still is the Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady. They got Mike Evans, they got Chris Godwin. But even still, Leonard Fournette is pretty heavily utilized in the receiving game, which I think raises his floor. And you could expect a safe 14 points a game from him, which is absolutely fine. And also, another good thing about him is we know the backup here is Rachaad White. And since we know that, I mean, you could have him as a backup just sitting on your bench just in case anything happens. It's like a Madison, but much, much cheaper. So I think it is absolutely fine. That's why I got Leonard Fournette here. Then we got Aaron Jones. I still think Aaron Jones has to be in the B tier. He's probably the last running back 1 on this list, I would say. I mean, because he would be running back 12 here. But I am a little bit concerned. I think Aaron Jones is a very, very boomer bust player. I mean, 30 points to 4 points to 13 points. It's not something you're going to get regularity from. And while he will win you weeks, Aaron Jones is also the type of player who can lose you weeks because A.J. Dillon's in the lineup, and that's why I can't rank him higher. The reason why I still do have him in B tier is because if A.J. Dillon goes down, Aaron Jones has the opportunity to become an A tier, potentially even S tier running back. And the same thing with A.J. Dillon, who's coming up in a bit. But we know what Aaron Jones is. He's going to be averaging 4 targets a game. He's going to be getting 14 rushes a game, and that opportunity is absolutely fine. You could even see it go up depending on how the Packers play the rest of the season. But Aaron Jones, completely fine running back. Then we got Najee Harris and James Conner. I'll start with Najee Harris. I'm pretty concerned with Najee Harris, to say the least. I think Najee Harris is not getting utilized in the receiving game nearly as much as people would have wanted to. And that's why I don't think he could be an RB1 for your roster anymore. I mean, in his most recent game, his first game with Kenny Pickett, he didn't record a single target, didn't record a single reception. Well, yes, he's pretty utilized in the rushing game. It's not enough for Najee Harris, considering this offense is pretty bad, so he's not going to be getting many trips to the end zone. And 2, the O-line is pretty bad, so he's not going to be very efficient. So I would pretty much consider him worse than Joe Mixon in almost every single way. And I think my rankings accurately reflect that. I'm pretty scared of Najee Harris, but he still does have good name value, so if you can go sell him, I would go sell him. And then we have James Conner, a guy who I think is struggling because there's no DeAndre Hopkins in this offense, and it's a lot harder to space the floor when you have no DeAndre Hopkins, but somebody who still should be fine. We saw last year that he has a nose for the end zone. I don't think that'll change, and once they get closer to the end zone, once they get DeAndre Hopkins back, they're going to be giving it to him more and more. Kyler Murray makes magic happen. James Conner, another buy low candidate, a guy I still think could be a nice RB2, definitely a high-end RB2 actually. And then lastly, we got A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, pretty much the same thing as with Aaron Jones. Very boomer bust, depending on who they like to go to, because the Packers like to ride the hot hand. But he does have that built-in upside if Aaron Jones goes down. And if that's the case, A.J. Dillon, again, would be an A-tier running back. Now let's move on to the C tier, kind of more so guys who I think are absolutely fine to start as RB2s, but don't have the flashiness or the potential upside that these other guys above them do. The first guy is J.K. Dobbins. And, well, yes, Dobbins is a little bit concerning with his ACL. I think he does have the potential to be a phenomenal running back in the NFL. We saw it at the end of 2020, at the end of his rookie season, where the last 6 games he was having a touchdown a game. Now comes back into his second NFL game this season, has 2 total touchdowns, is utilized in the receiving game, and is pretty much given the reins in the rushing game, which is exactly what you want to see for J.K. Dobbins, because this Ravens running back room has gotten off to a pretty sad start. So now seeing them hand the ball off to J.K. Dobbins and actually utilizing a running back shows that they have confidence in J.K. Dobbins. So I like J.K. Dobbins a lot here at the head of my C tier. But next up, we got Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs absolutely exploded for 32 fantasy points last week, and they gave him the reins to the offense with an 89% snap count. I think that's incredible. I mean, he's also gotten utilized in the receiving game a lot more, getting 5 targets and 6 targets in the last 2 games. Josh Jacobs could absolutely be ahead of this. I think he's somebody that can move up to high B tier or even A tier pretty quickly, considering his history as a top 10 running back. I mean, he's never had a season below the running back 15 in standard scoring, so I think Josh Jacobs has a history. I could absolutely rank him higher than this. I just don't want to right now because we've only seen it for 1 game, and it was an explosion game. But Josh Jacobs should go higher than this, I will say. Then we got Breece Hall and Dameon Pierce, 2 rookies. I like Breece Hall a little bit more. I could actually justify moving Breece Hall a little bit higher yet again, as he is taking more and more of the snap count as the weeks go on. I mean, 27% snap count to 51 to 66, so he is winning this job over Michael Carter, which is expected. I mean, Michael Carter, not a guy you were really too worried about sapping the job, and now Breece Hall, 17 carries for 66 yards and 6 targets. That's 23 total touches. That's a workhorse running back right there. If I've ever seen one. Well, yes, I don't know how good this Jets offense is going to be. I think they can actually be sneaky decent for fantasy because they do have a decent O-line, good weapons, which should space the floor for Breece Hall. And you do have a pretty clear backup in this offense with Michael Carter, so you can always pick him up. He might be rostered in a lot of leagues, but there are some leagues where Michael Carter's not rostered in. And therefore, I think Breece Hall does have a very clear backup, but he's also a starter in his offense. Dameon Pierce, I'm sure everyone saw the 75-yard touchdown. He's a very, very good player. And finally given the reins to this offense, getting 70% of the snaps in week 4, 14 carries for 131 yards. That's 10 yards a carry. I mean, yes, it is boosted up with the 75-yard touchdown, but he also gets 6 targets, 6 receptions, meaning they are trying to utilize him as more of a receiving back, which is exactly what you like to see. Dameon Pierce could absolutely go higher than this because he's the only running back in his offense, but it is the Texans' offense. So I'm a little bit scared, but I still think Dameon Pierce deserves to be a starting running back at this point. So now my next tier, guys, this is the D tier. These are the guys that I think should absolutely still be RB2s, but they're low-end RB2s. Starting it off, we got Miles Sanders. And while I do think Miles Sanders has the opportunity to go ahead of this if he keeps getting the workload that he is getting, I mean, 96 yards, 80 yards, 134 yards, which is actually crazy. I am still a little bit concerned with Miles Sanders because they haven't really been giving him the reins in the previous 2 seasons, finishing as the running back 44 and 24. He does definitely have the talent. I mean, we've seen it. He's rushed for over 5 yards a carry in every season except for 1. Right now he's at 4.94 yards a carry, so he can absolutely do it. He's very, very talented. But again, I just would like to see the workload more before I go out and rank him any higher. He could, again, absolutely be ranked higher. I think he maybe should be ranked higher, but he's definitely a serviceable RB2. Then we got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a guy, I mean, he's really the king of regression, averaging about 14 touches a game. Yet he's had a touchdown every single game, which has made him the running back 4 through the first 4 weeks of the season. While I still think he's a nice RB2 because he's in a really good offense, I'm a bit concerned that Clyde is not going to be able to sustain this level of touchdown success that he's had to start the season. Very, very talented running back. Drafted in the first round, but I think he's a sell high candidate. Still a fine RB2, but I wouldn't have as much more than that. And then lastly, we got Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, a guy very much so like A.J. Dillon, a guy where he's getting 15 touches a game, and if Nick Chubb goes down, I mean, the upside is top 5 RB. We've seen it before with Kareem Hunt being the running back 3 in his rookie season. I mean, the talent's absolutely there, and the work is there too, so I think Kareem Hunt is justified to be in this tier. But if an injury happens to Chubb, I mean, he goes skyrocketing. It's not even funny. Kareem Hunt, one of my biggest buy lows. Moving on to my next tier, guys. These are primarily flex plays. We got James Robinson to start. James Robinson, well, I do think he absolutely has the ability, as we've seen before, to be an RB2, to even potentially be a low-end RB1. My problem is that we've seen that James Robinson is not a game script proof running back, and although the Jaguars do look a lot better to start this season, I'm not 100% sure I'm on board with the Jaguars being a 9-10 win team just yet. And if that's the case, if they're not a 9-10 win team, then I see James Robinson getting phased out just a tiny bit in terms of game script because he's not a receiving back, only getting 6 total targets through the first 4 weeks of the season. While he's a good rushing running back, I'm not 100% sure he's going to be a great pass-catching running back. That's more Travis Etienne's job. So that's why I have James Robinson here. I still think he's a fine flex play, but I wouldn't really want him as any more than that. I think he's a talented running back, but it's as far as I go. Now, don't think I forgot about this guy. I'm talking about Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke, I don't know, man. I mean, he's getting the workload. He's certainly getting the workload. I mean, 15 touches, 19 rushes. And now he finally has positive receiving yards on the season. But I'm concerned. I mean, he hasn't really been getting into the end zone. This offense does not look all that great. Once Dak comes back, I'm sure it will look better. But we're going to see a pretty much even split between him and Pollard. He's getting 60% of the touches. Pollard's getting about 55% of the touches. I'm just pretty torn with Zeke. I just really don't want him, honestly. He hasn't been running the ball nearly as well. It doesn't look as good. And he's the running back 36 in PPR through 4 weeks. Well, I think he is probably a buy low candidate at this point. And I might have him a little bit low. I mean, he's my running back 23. I don't think I have him that low. I'm pretty concerned with Zeke. I'll say it flat out. But now, moving on, we got Rashaad Penny. And Rashaad Penny is a guy who can absolutely ball. I mean, 18 touches for 157 yards last game. The problem is he can never stay healthy. Right now, I'm looking at my sleeper app, and he's questionable. He's tending to a shoulder issue. That's always been the concern with Penny, but the talent is absolutely there. I think he does deserve to be higher than this, but the problem is I can't rank him that until he's able to play more. And also, we don't know exactly how Kenneth Walker is going to phase in for the rest of the season. Well, I think Kenneth Walker will not be as heavily utilized as Rashaad Penny. It is possible he is. So that's why I have Rashaad Penny as low as I do. But next we got Melvin Gordon, a guy who I now is boosted up a ton because Javonte Williams is out. But I am a little concerned this is still going to be a committee. The Broncos historically have always run committees. They bring in Latavius Murray. They still have Mike Boone, and they're using him a lot in this offense, getting about 20% of snaps. So I can't have Melvin Gordon ranked any higher, but if he's somehow in your waivers, absolutely go and scoop him. He still is like a fine flex play, maybe a nice depth piece at RB, but I wouldn't have us any more than that. And now we got Dameon Harris and Rhamondre Stevenson to round out this tier. Both these guys, I mean, I have them pretty much attached at the hip. On any given week, one might do better than the other. Rhamondre actually outsnaps Dameon Harris, but Dameon Harris has gotten more total touches. It's a little strange, but both these guys are absolutely fine, and they also have the hidden potential where if one of them goes down, the other one's going to feast. Now to round out this list, we got running backs 29, 30, and 31. We're giving you a little bonus. The first guy is Raheem Mostert. I was big into Chase Edmonds, but I think Raheem Mostert is definitely the back in this offense now. Commanding 17 total touches in week 4 and was pretty much in the whole fourth quarter when Teddy Bridgewater was playing. So I think Raheem Mostert is pretty much the guy in this offense, also getting 72% of snaps this past week. Even if he maintains 65 to 70%, I still think that is fine depth piece. So I'm absolutely fine with Raheem Mostert here. Then next we got Devin Singletary, and Devin Singletary is climbing up the snap count. He's getting more and more snaps as the weeks go on. So again, I could have him higher than this, but we just haven't really seen him with Singletary yet. I mean, he had one 19-point performance, but other than that, Singletary hasn't really done anything too special. And then my last guy is David Montgomery, and David Montgomery is going to be coming back from this injury, and when he does, he should be receiving his usual workload. But my problem is Khalil Herbert has looked so good that I'm just not 100% sure David Montgomery is going to be receiving his normal workload. Well, I think it is possible, and that's what we've seen in the past. I still am a little timid, and that's why I have him ranked as low as I do. But anyways, guys, that is it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, please go down, leave a like. Again, I'm answering every single comment, so if you have any questions related to fantasy football, don't be afraid. Drop them below in the comments. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on so you don't miss another video and you can absolutely dominate your league mates. I hope you guys did enjoy the rest of season rankings for running backs. But anyways, that is going to be it from me. As always, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.